The first cry of her newborn son was the sweetest sound Mara had ever heard. It echoed through her small clay hut like a hymn from heaven, wrapping her heart in trembling joy. For years, she had dreamed of this moment, of holding a living, breathing child in her arms. But before the tears on her cheeks could dry, she heard a second sound. A voice, deep, familiar, and cold, came from her doorway. "Thank you for carrying my heir," the man said. "I have come to collect him." Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to join our storytelling family. Yellowheart, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. 9 months before that moment, Mara was simply a lonely widow. She lived in the quiet village of Induka, where the sun baked the red earth and gossip was as common as dust. At 50, her hair had begun to gray, her back had bent from years of solitude, and her heart had hardened with the weight of empty seasons. Her neighbors pitied her, but pity in Induka was sharp. It came with whispers and laughter behind woven mats. They said her womb was a dry calabash, a forgotten pot left in the corner of a kitchen. They said she had angered the gods or refused the ancestors' will. Children would point at her in the market, their mothers pulling them away as though her emptiness could rub off like disease. Mara would smile weakly, pretending not to hear, but their words burned deeper than firewood smoke. Each night, when the village fell silent and the moonlight painted silver paths across her floor, Mara knelt before her clay pot of ancestors. "Please," she whispered, her voice hoarse with old prayers, "let me bear just one child. A boy, a girl, anyone to carry my name." She prayed for her husband's restless spirit, gone these 20 years, to find peace knowing his lineage continued. But her prayers fell on silence thick as darkness. Seasons passed like tired travelers. The rains came and went. Children she once bathed in her youth now had children of their own. Mara grew older, smaller, quieter, until one strange evening in the heart of the dry season, the wind changed. A stranger walked into Induka. He was taller than any man in the village, his skin as dark as fertile earth after the rain, his eyes ancient and calm. His steps were slow, steady, as though the earth itself parted to let him pass. He carried only a wooden staff, but the air around him trembled with quiet power. He stopped in the center of the village square, his gaze sweeping the faces of curious onlookers. "Who is the oldest widow in this place?" he asked. His voice was deep, like thunder rolling behind far hills. The villagers exchanged wary glances. No one spoke until an old woman pointed a trembling hand toward Mara's hut. Mara was outside, mending an old fishing net when a tall shadow fell over her. She looked up, startled. "Good evening, mother," the man said, bowing slightly. His tone carried a weight of respect, yet something about him stirred the hairs on her neck. "Good evening," she replied softly. "Who are you?" "My name is Aiden," he said. "I'm a traveler. I seek only a place to rest for the night." Mara hesitated. In her village, it was improper for a widow to host a strange man. Yet his eyes, calm, endless, ancient, held no threat, only weariness. "You may stay," she said quietly. "I have no bed, only a mat, but I can offer you yam and stew." Inside, the air smelled of smoke and palm oil. Mara stirred the pot, while Aiden sat silently watching her. He spoke little, but his silence felt alive, as though the hut itself was listening. When they finished eating, he said, "You are lonely, mother." It was not a question. Mara froze, her wooden spoon halfway to the pot. "You see too much, traveler," she murmured. "I see what is there," he replied. "You long for a child." Tears gathered in her eyes. "It is my greatest shame," she confessed. "I am a woman without fruit, a hollow tree." Aiden's eyes softened. "A field may be dry, but if the right seed meets it, the harvest will come." Mara shook her head. "I'm too old. My time for planting has passed." He leaned forward, the lamplight flickering against his face. "Age is for mortals. I can give you what you desire most, a son. Strong, healthy, destined to make this village remember your name." She stared at him, fear battling with hope. "How? What kind of magic is this?" "It is not magic," Aiden said. "It is life, ancient life. A transaction between two who have what the other lacks. You have a womb ready for one last gift. I have the seed of an immortal line. I will plant it in you tonight." Mara's heart pounded. "And what do you want from me?" "Nothing now," he said simply. "You will give my heir life. That is your part of the bargain." Her thoughts raced. To lie with a man she barely knew, it was madness. But loneliness, sharp and deep as a knife, whispered louder than reason. That night was not one of passion, but purpose. His touch was gentle, reverent, almost ceremonial. It felt less like love and more like a ritual, a farmer planting a sacred yam. When it was over, Aiden lay still, breathing deeply, while Mara stared at the ceiling, her heart racing with fear and disbelief. At dawn, the hut was empty. The mat beside her was cold. He had vanished without a word, leaving behind only the memory of his strange promise. Mara tried to convince herself it was a dream. But dreams did not leave such weight in the body or warmth in the heart. Weeks turned into months. Then one morning, Mara woke with sickness clawing at her stomach. Her body felt different. Her cycles, silent for years, did not return. Trembling, she went to the village herbalist, an old woman known to read bodies like sacred scrolls. After a long examination, the herbalist stepped back, her eyes wide. "Mara," she whispered, "the ancestors have done the impossible. You are with child." The word struck Mara like thunder. "A child?" she whispered, clutching her chest. "No, it cannot be." The herbalist nodded solemnly. "It is true. I have checked twice. Your womb, long asleep, has awakened." Mara stumbled out of the hut, her mind spinning. The sky seemed too bright, the air too heavy. How could this be? Was it truly a blessing from the ancestors, or something else entirely? Something darker? At first, the villagers laughed. They said Mara had lost her mind. Old women don't carry children, they scoffed in the marketplace. Maybe she swallowed a yam whole. Their laughter stung, but Mara said nothing. She had carried heavier burdens than mockery. Weeks passed, and her belly began to swell. Slowly at first, then faster than anyone had ever seen. By the third month, she looked ready to deliver. The women stopped laughing. They watched her from behind their stalls, whispering to one another with wide, fearful eyes. "This is not natural," they said. "She carries something that is not of this world." Mara felt their fear, and it grew inside her like a shadow. Her body changed in ways she could not explain. Her senses sharpened. She could smell rain before the clouds gathered. She could hear the beating wings of birds high above the trees. Her hunger became monstrous. She devoured pots of yam porridge and still felt hollow. The village herbalist who once examined her refused to come near again. "What grows inside you is not a human child," the old woman whispered before shutting her door. "Stay away, Mara. I will not touch this thing." Alone and frightened, Mara found comfort only in the rhythmic kicks within her belly. Each night she would whisper to the unseen child, "Who are you, my little one? What are you becoming?" And every time, the baby would answer with a strong kick, as if to remind her that it was very much alive. The moon rose and fell 9 times, just as the stranger had promised. Mara's body had become both her prison and her miracle. When the pain came, it was fierce like fire tearing through her bones. She called for the midwives, but no one came. "We do not deliver spirits," they cried from behind closed doors. She crawled back in her hut, sweat pouring down her face. The sky outside burned red as the sun sank. Pain rippled through her body, wave after wave, until she thought she might split in two. "Ancestors, help me!" she screamed, clutching the earth beneath her. The world went silent for a heartbeat. Then a cry pierced the air. It was not the weak cry of a newborn. It was a powerful, echoing roar that made the walls of her hut tremble. Mara gasped, staring at the child between her legs. He was large, strong, with eyes already open, dark eyes that seemed to see everything. Her heart overflowed with joy. "My son," she whispered, cradling him close. His warmth filled her empty years. "You are my miracle." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she kissed his forehead. For the first time in decades, her heart was whole. But her peace did not last. A heavy footstep sounded outside. Then another. The steady tap of a wooden staff against the earth froze her blood. A shadow stretched across the doorway. Mara looked up, and her heart stopped. Aiden stood there. He looked exactly as he had the night he came, tall, calm, ancient. "Thank you," he said, his voice deep as before. "You have carried my heir. I have come to collect him." His tone held no warmth, only the cold certainty of someone claiming what was his. Mara clutched her son tighter, her arms trembling. "No," she whispered. "You cannot take him. He is mine." Aiden stepped inside, his shadow swallowing the firelight. "He is not yours, Mara. You were the vessel. A sacred one, yes. But the harvest belongs to the farmer." "I am not a field," she screamed, her voice breaking. "I carried him in my body. I felt his heart beat beneath mine. I bore the pain. He is my child." Aiden's expression softened with something close to pity. "You gave him passage, but he is not of your world. He carries my blood, and my blood is not human." "Elle." The words hit her like stones. "Then what are you?" she asked, trembling. Aiden raised his eyes, their depths endless. "I am the spirit of the ancient forest, the river that never dies, the breath that stirs the first leaf. I am old, Mara, older than the name of this land. My kind fades, so I sought an heir. Your womb was chosen." Her tears came fast. "He is a baby," she cried. "He needs me. He needs milk, warmth, a mother." Aiden shook his head slowly. "He will not need milk. Where we go, he will drink from the streams of life itself. He cannot stay here. His power would destroy this place." Suddenly, pain shot through Mara's spine. She gasped, nearly dropping the child. Her strength, which had seemed endless through pregnancy, drained away like water from a cracked pot. Her fingers trembled, her skin wrinkled before her eyes. Aiden's voice softened. "This is the price, Mara. You did not think such a gift came free, did you? You said you wanted nothing," she croaked. "I wanted nothing," he replied. "But the child took what he needed. His power fed on your life. The youth, the strength you felt, it was borrowed from your future. Now the debt is due." Her heart broke. Her joints screamed. Her hair turned gray before her eyes. "Please," she begged, "let me hold him a little longer. Just one day, 1 hour." Aiden knelt before her. "If I grant that wish, you will not live to see sunrise. He would draw out the rest of your years to stay alive." She looked down at her baby. His gaze met hers, steady, ancient, knowing. He did not cry. He only stared, as if understanding what was happening. "He knows you," Mara whispered, tears falling onto his tiny face. "He knows you are his father." Aiden held out his arms. He did not snatch. He waited. His eyes carried the weight of eternity. Mara's arms weakened. Her strength slipped away like smoke. With one last sob, she let the child go. Aiden lifted him gently, cradling him with a tenderness that seemed to come from centuries of loss. The baby cooed softly, touching his father's cheek. Aiden looked down at Mara, now frail and shrinking before his eyes. "Rest now," he said quietly. "You have done what no other could. Your name will be remembered in my world forever." The last thing Mara saw was her son glowing faintly in his father's arms. A light spread from his small body, bathing the hut in gold. The wind rose, whispering through the thatch roof like the sighs of 1,000 spirits. Then both father and child were gone. The villagers found Mara the next morning lying on her mat. Her hair was white, her face peaceful. She looked like an old woman who had lived 100 years. But on her lips was the faintest smile. They buried her under the great Irako tree by the river. For days, the wind in the branches sounded like the soft cry of a baby. The villagers whispered that a spirit had visited their land. Some said they saw a tall man walking toward the forest, a bright child in his arms. And sometimes, when the moon was full, women claimed to hear Mara's voice carried on the breeze, whispering lullabies to the son she had loved but could never keep. Seasons passed. The tale of Mara and the spirit child became a whisper told around hearth fires. Mothers warned their daughters not to welcome strangers into their huts, and old men said that some wounds were never meant to open again. Yet for all the fear and caution, there was a strange reverence too. People left small bowls of yam and palm oil by the irako tree where Mara rested, afraid and respectful of the mother who had carried a god's heir. Children grew up hearing her name like a riddle. Who gave birth to a god and paid with her life? The elders would ask, and the children would shout, Mara! Their voices would echo across the red plains, a mix of awe and wonder. But far beyond the edge of Induka, deep in the ancient forest where no man dared to hunt, Aiden walked. The trees that were older than memory, their trunks as wide as houses, their roots twisting through the earth like the veins of the world itself. The air shimmered with quiet magic. At his side, the boy walked barefoot, tall for his age, his eyes bright with knowing. Aiden called him Oba, meaning king. The name suited him. Even as a child, the forest bowed to his presence. The winds calmed when he laughed. The rivers sang when he approached. His father taught him the songs of life, the secrets of rivers, and the language of trees. But Oba was not content. Why do the humans fear us? He asked one night, as fireflies circled around their camp. They are part of the world too. Aiden looked at him, sadness in his ageless eyes. Because they forget what they cannot understand. And fear grows where memory dies. Oba fell silent, watching the flames. I want to see them, he said at last. The village where my mother lived. Aiden's face darkened. That world is not for you. But I must, Oba insisted softly. I feel her in my dreams. She calls me by name. For days, the spirit resisted. But even the oldest river cannot fight its own flow. One dawn, father and son stood at the edge of the forest, the trees whispering farewell. Do not stay long, Aiden warned. The mortal world forgets mercy. Oba nodded. I will be careful, father. He walked barefoot through the dusty paths until the roofs of Induka came into view. The villagers, busy in the market, froze at the sight of the boy. His presence filled the air with a quiet hum, like thunder before rain. His eyes glowed faintly, and though his voice was gentle, it carried the weight of ages. I seek the grave of Mara, he said. An old woman pointed toward the irako tree by the river, her hands trembling. Who are you, child? She asked. Oba smiled sadly. I am her son. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Women dropped their baskets. Men stepped back in awe. The boy walked past them, the air parting softly as he moved. He reached the tree and knelt by the mound of earth. The wind rose, carrying the scent of rain. Mother, he whispered, his small hand pressing into the soil. I came back, as I promised in my dreams. The ground seemed to breathe beneath his touch. Leaves rustled gently, though no breeze stirred. A faint golden light spread from his hand into the roots. The villagers watched, speechless, as the ancient tree began to bloom out of season. Bright white flowers opened where none had grown before. The air shimmered with warmth, and for a heartbeat, they thought they heard a woman's soft voice singing from within the earth, a lullaby only a child could understand. Aiden appeared at the forest's edge, silent and grave. It is time, he said. Oba turned to him, tears glistening in his eyes. I will miss her. She is not gone, Aiden said gently. She lives in the soil, in the wind, in the river that flows. You were her greatest prayer answered. That is eternal. The boy rose, wiping his tears. He looked back at the villagers who now knelt in reverence. Honor her, he said softly. Not with fear, but with kindness. She was braver than any of you will ever know. Then he took his father's hand, and together they walked back into the forest. As they vanished among the trees, the river near Mara's grave began to glow faintly, as though moonlight had sunk beneath its surface. From that day on, the water never ran dry. Even in the harshest dry seasons, it flowed clear and sweet, and the villagers called it the Mother Stream. Generations passed. The story of Mara became legend, told to children when thunder rolled through the skies. They said that when the first rain fell, it was her tears blessing the earth, and that when the forest rustled at night, it was her son, Oba, walking among the spirits, guarding the world his mother died to bring him into. And so, in the village of Induka, where once they mocked her name, The people built a small shrine beneath the great Irako tree. On it they carved a simple message. To Mara, the mother of miracles. She carried a god and gave the world a river. And those centuries would pass and tongues would forget. The water still flowed, cool, eternal, and pure, singing her name in every ripple. Mara, Mara, Mara.